do need to move on. We've now got Charles Kerrigan, who's going to talk about Charles Kerrigan from CMS, who's been speaking at many of these catch-up sessions. I'm sure many of you will remember him. He's going to talk about international ecosystems, and he's going to talk about a RAK DAO case. Right? Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. Hi, everybody. I'll share my screen. I'm just going to spend 5 minutes running you through where these conversations go to, and hopefully that's helpful. So the conversations that we have here, let me know when you can see this.
We can see it now.
Okay, so we're now sharing. So as Louise says, my day job, and I know many of you from my day job as a law firm lawyer, but I'm wearing a couple of hats today, one of which is as a board member of RAK DAO, which is an interesting little project that I got to know through the second half of last year. The less than a minute on each of these. So who I am, what's RAK DAO? The key thing, why do ecosystems matter, and the relevance of that for conversations like this. So who am I? I have a corporate finance background. I spent the early part of my career wrestling with Louise and Jenny's books, trying to make sense of floating charges, and have subsequently moved on to trying to make sense of things in deep tech. So I guess most relevant to the conversation today is that the team that I run at CMS is a crypto first team. So we work for a lot of the crypto native firms, people like Binance, Coinbase, Crypto.com, and so on. And it's our job to make sense of these conversations so that we can help people like that figure out what it is they need to do off the back of them. I'm always interested in the conversations about lawyers getting their heads around the technical aspects of these things. Some of you may have heard me say this before, but my experience of this, the whole team, apart from me and a trainee, were senior lawyers inside crypto firms before they came here. And my experience is it's a lot quicker to teach the law to crypto people than it is to teach crypto to lawyers. Some of that reflects through in the conversations. So what's RAK DAO? It is a free zone which is intended to operate as an ecosystem inside the United Arab Emirates to support digital assets business. The particular relevance of that for the purposes of today is that it has adopted English common law. So these conversations are relevant to the work that we're doing in RAK DAO in relation to token analysis and establishing whether people do or don't fit within our licensing requirements. So English common law, we like to say that it is an international export, and here's an example of how it is an international export. So for those of you that were following the cases in DIFC, which have referenced the Law Commission work, this is similar, and similarly has adopted a lot of the UK financial regulation. But an open question, I think, for the UAE, as the US is going to much more quickly than the UK develop digital assets regulation in the next 12, 24 months, we may see one of the trends that whilst English common law remains prevailing, it may be that English regulation is superseded. So watch the space on that. A couple more points. I'm conscious of not making this look like an advert for RAK DAO, but we can share the slides, and this is just a couple of things from the public-facing material that we put out. So we issue licenses of various types to firms doing digital crypto asset business. We're getting into the ecosystem point here, so work with partners. The way to do this is as part of a group. And again, this is the bit which looks most like an advert. So forget about the green and red bits, just read across the top, which is a list of the jurisdictions that we think are most active in relation to digital assets. And then down the left-hand column, the types of business that people who are working in this space are most interested in. So that look across, if I take my RAK DAO hat off and put my CMS hat back on again, we spend huge amounts of time doing jurisdictional advice and surveys for firms looking to launch different kinds of projects and trying to figure out where is the best place to launch. The best is a combination of time, budget, and one of the things, of course, is legal certainty. So why do ecosystems matter? And the reason I want to flag this is consistently one of the things that is called out by the people who are working the space as the least helpful thing that lawyers do is disagree with each other about the nature of the assets. So there's a bit of frustration in the industry at the moment about the level of comment in relation to the digital assets bill. I think a lot of the industry, the crypto native industry, was very supportive of it and very keen for it to make its way through as efficiently as possible. And there's been, as Laura was describing, a lot of commentary that I think representing the industry has been generally thought to be rather unhelpful. So the industry doesn't care. It doesn't matter where a lot of these issues land. I think it's obvious that digital assets are property. We would, as lawyers, look pretty strange. We're now at a 4 trillion combined market cap and going up. It would be odd to think of that as not representing property in purely commercial terms. What I'm trying to identify on this slide is a couple of the aspects that are significant about ecosystems. So the first two go together. We've already had reference to Tether and USDT in the context of the Deloya case, which I won't comment on because it sort of re-raises the points that Fatima dealt with before, and also in relation to the digital assets bill. Tether's licensing status has meant that it has been delisted by most crypto exchanges in Europe, and we can see that from the first two slides. So just using Coinbase as an example here, but most of the exchanges have taken the same position in relation to it. The effect of that has been to fragment liquidity. So most of the liquidity in crypto assets just flows back and forth across the whole of the internet. This is money on the internet. And from a regulator's perspective, taking steps that will limit liquidity are generally perceived to be unhelpful from a consumer perspective. But the implication of some of the non-harmonized licensing, MiCA is the European example, is that liquidity does become fragmented. Now, this is a point that's been endlessly debated inside the crypto industry, but less so, I think, within the legal community. I use it simply to illustrate the fact that the closer we can get to internationally harmonized and accepted rules in relation to crypto assets, the better. And conversely, the more time that we spend discussing among ourselves rather arcane points of the technology, that is less helpful from the industry's perspective. The next three links go together. So crypto assets unfit for central bank reserves today. These are in chronological order. First is the World Bank blog saying you wouldn't use crypto assets for central bank reserves, and followed up by the FT, who agree with them. We know the FT very well here and have lots of robust discussions with them. However, the latest is reflecting new US policy. Nation states turn to Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset. That is not currently US policy, but it will be investigated. So things change, and in order to be part of the environment that works around crypto and digital assets, again, the international aspect is extremely significant. And then finally, just in relation to a specifically UK piece, the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF was set all kinds of records in relation to ETF and the measures of success in relation to those, but it's not available to UK investors. So this great advance in relation to crypto sitting inside traditional wrappers, and we've had conversations about tokenization, and Henry's kicked us off with what that looks like working inside traditional financial systems. Again, we have some regulatory policy, in this case in the UK, which is preventing access for UK investors. So ecosystems matter enormously. From the UK's perspective, we don't have all of the things that are significant, but we do have the common law. Takes me on to what makes ecosystems work. So two things. One is money, and the second is regulators that are prepared to, whether it's through sandboxes or whether it's through industry engagement and likewise, prepared to make or prepared to hear the case for novelty and innovation and similar. There is risk associated with every type of financial innovation. The key is balancing the trade-offs. So I guess no surprises that if you're looking at where the money is and where the regulatory engagement is these days, the US is going to be coming top of the list. So that is going to be, I think, the most significant place as far as crypto digital assets are concerned for the next couple of years. What do I think we need? So this is reflecting the debate. So Mark Andreessen kicked us off with a techno-optimist manifesto about a year ago. The New York Times didn't like it at all, and people have been responding to the New York Times criticisms since then. And the third link on there is an example of that. So I think we do need optimism, engagement in order to have an ecosystem. The people who are working in crypto, in my experience, are very mission and purpose driven. They expect their service providers to understand where they're coming from, to be more or less aligned with the vision. And in order for a successful ecosystem to operate, it needs a critical mass of people, including lawyers, who meet that characteristic. And how do we get MVPs in legal systems? This is blank because I don't know. So it is my provocative question, responding to my own underlying theme here of saying that the issue of lawyers disagreeing and making arcane points is almost the opposite end of the extreme. It's the sort of non-MVP. So what I'd be interested to know from this group is, can we have MVP type thinking in relation to some of this work? And I will stop sharing there. And that question is not a rhetorical question. It's designed to see if there are people in the group who are interested in sort of engaging and being part of it, whether now or later, to come back to. So thank you for the time, Louise.
Thank you very much indeed.